Nations rely on civil society, private institutions devoted to higher values, to promote truth and justice and to keep them on the right path, to maintain freedom of speech and religion. A just legal system and equal rights for all requires not only good government officials, but also enlightened and fair minded professional classes, non-profit organizations, and educational institutions. Four of the nation's most respected professionals were involved in Carrie Buck's case: medicine, academia, law, and judiciary, in the form of four powerful men. They were the kind of individuals who were in a position to put a check on the popular mania over eugenics, and to protect the people who were wrongly branded a threat. In each case, however, these men sided forcefully with the eugenic cause and used their power and prestige to see that Carrie was sterilized. Albert Priddy was the physician who selected Carrie to be the first person operated on under Virginian law. Dr. Priddy served as superintendent of the colony of epileptics and feeble-minded, where Carrie was an inmate. Before he chose Carrie, he had lobbied and legislated to pass the eugenics sterilization law, and he was a key part of the defense team that worked to get it upheld in court. In his campaign for eugenic sterilization, Dr. Priddy had much of the medical professional behind him. Across the country, doctors took a leading role in promoting eugenics and eugenic sterilization, leading their expertise and authority to the cause. Medical journals were full of polemical articles advocating sterilization, with titles like Race Suicide for Social Parasites. In the critical years, not every prominent doctor supported eugenic sterilization, but very few spoke out against it. So I feel like this is almost like Democrats right now, like, who say we're gonna get your rights back, but like, what rights again? What are you talking about? Like, freaking Kamala Harris. Harry Laughlin, the head of the Eugenic Record Office, was the scientist who gave his expert opinion that the Virginia law should be upheld and that Carrie should be sterilized. Laughlin had been a key supporter of the Immigration Act of 1924, arguing that national quotas were needed to keep out genetically inferior Italians and Eastern European Jews. He was the most prominent advocate for eugenic sterilization and the author of a 502-page treatise on the subject. It was Laughlin who proposed sterilizing 15 million people, and he was doing more than anyone else to make the vision a reality. Laughlin, a college professor who had a doctorate in biology from Princeton, was also to a great extent representative of his professional peers. Many of the nation's leading academic scientists publicly supported eugenics and eugenic sterilization, and for decades, those who opposed it largely remained silent. Scientific American editorial repeatedly in support of eugenics, insisting society must tell its unfit members, "You may live, but must not propagate." Audrey Strode was the lawyer who drafted the Virginian sterilization law and went on to defend it all the way to the United States Supreme Court. Unlike Dr. Priddy and Laughlin, Strode was not a pro-eugenicist ideologue. He was, rather, a lawyer whose job it was to represent people who believed deeply in eugenic sterilization, and he was more than willing to advocate for his client's position. The legal profession provided critical support to the eugenic movement. Some of the nation's leading lawyers endorsed the cause, including early on the president of the American Bar Association, who declared eugenic marriage laws necessary to protect future generations from the evil operation of the laws of heredity. The Municipal Court of Chicago, a leading member in law reform, conducted eugenic research and underwrote Laughlin's sterilization treatise. The eugenic sterilization movement was fundamentally a legal undertaking. The lawyers, like Strode, were an integral part of it. Finally, it was the great Oliver Wendell Holmes who had the last word on Carrie's fate, and who, with his broadside against society's imbeciles, lent his enormous intellectual prestige to the sterilization cause. Holmes had been a supporter of eugenics, and he had suggested years earlier that the best route to societal reform lay in taking in hand life and trying to build a race. Oh shit. Holmes was not a man who easily found enjoyment, but he would later say that upholding Virginia's eugenic sterilization law and Carey's sterilization had given him real pleasure. Of all of the professionals, the judiciary played the most disappointing role. Not all the judges of that era were pro-eugenics. Indeed, over the years, courts around the country had struck down state eugenic sterilization laws, but America's courts are hierarchically ordered, and when the issue reached the nation's highest court, the legal analysis was shoddy, and the vote was not close. The institution established by the founders to protect the American people from injustice became injustice's loudest cheerleader. When legal scholars rank the Supreme Court's worst decisions, the competition is considerable. Throughout its history, the court has often, critics would say, predictably, but on the wrong side of justice. Before the Civil War, when Dred Scott, an enslaved man transported to parts of the country where slavery was illegal, sued for his freedom, the court ruled that as a Negro whose ancestors were imported into this country and sold as slaves, he had no right to sue in federal court. In the Jim Crow era, when Homer Plessy, a man of mixed race, challenged a Louisiana law under which he had been forcibly removed from a whites-only rail car, the court rejected his complaint and upheld legally enforced racial segregation.